Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today we're talking all about how to find motivation. Now, if you have ADHD, you've probably noticed that traditional motivators, all the things that seem to work for everyone else, like rewards, punishments, or obligations, usually don't work for us at all and are not effective at helping us to reach goals or to complete tasks. And this can be incredibly frustrating when we want or need to do something, because sometimes we genuinely can't figure out how to make that happen. So you may not be surprised to hear that there are actually only 5 motivators for people with ADHD that can truly compel us enough to get activated. So today we'll talk about how the INCUP method, which is a completely different approach to motivation, can help us to actually get things done. And this can really be life-changing because so many of us grew up thinking that we were lazy or irresponsible, when in reality we were just trying to force ourselves to get motivated by things that our brains really aren't driven by. So the first thing we need to understand is why the things that motivate other people don't usually work for us. And there are several reasons for this. Firstly, people with ADHD often have difficulty with delayed gratification. We want the reward immediately, and oftentimes we're unwilling or even unable to wait for it. Secondly, we also tend to have difficulty with impulse control. So we may start a task because we're motivated by the reward, but more often than not, we can get distracted and give up well before the task is actually complete. Another issue is dopamine. ADHD is associated with differences in dopamine signaling, which is a neurotransmitter that's involved in motivation and reward. People with ADHD generally have lower dopamine levels or a less sensitive dopamine system, making them less responsive to rewards and punishments. And another factor is that we often have executive functioning impairments. ADHD is characterized by these impairments and can affect things like planning, organization, and self-regulation, making it difficult for us to follow through with reward systems or to avoid punishments. We are also more likely to experience emotional dysregulation, making us more sensitive to negative emotions like frustration or disappointment. This can make punishments more ineffective and even counterproductive, potentially leading to further discouragement and negative emotions. And fundamentally, people with ADHD have what's called an interest-based nervous system. And this is very different from most neurotypical people because they tend to have an importance-based nervous system. This means they are much more motivated by things like obligations and timelines, and can spring into action much more easily when they're faced with a responsibility or a deadline. Whereas, as much as we'd like to, people with an interest-based nervous system often cannot do this and may find it impossible not to procrastinate unless we find the task compelling in some way. And this is where the INCUP method comes in. Now, this system was developed by psychologist William Dodson, who uncovered 5 factors that can effectively motivate people with ADHD. The INCUP acronym stands for interest, novelty, challenge, urgency, and passion, which are the 5 motivational pillars, each of which can potentially serve as a drive for someone with ADHD. This system works because it taps into the intrinsic motivation of people with this condition, which traditional motivators completely failed to do. So if you think about a task from the past that you really just could not get done, it's likely that it did not check any of these boxes. So maybe it wasn't interesting or novel or challenging enough, or maybe it wasn't something you felt passionate about, or it didn't seem urgent or pressing. And if that is the case, it's no wonder that you weren't able to actually do it, because people with ADHD really do need at least one of these motivators, or they are not going to be able to force themselves to get it done. So knowing all of this really does help to explain a lot. But how can we actually use the INCUP method to get motivated? Well, the first way to use INCUP is to focus on interest. We can identify activities or tasks that genuinely pique our curiosity and spark our enthusiasm. When we're intrinsically motivated, we are much more likely to persist and find fulfillment in the process. Now, the second is to focus on novelty. So unlike many neurotypical people, things that are unfamiliar can actually intrigue and inspire us. So we can introduce new elements or new approaches to our routine to keep things fresh and to prevent boredom. This can involve things like learning a new skill, exploring different hobbies, or even just taking a different route to work. Now, the third way is to focus on challenge. So we can set goals that are challenging enough to stimulate our mind and keep us engaged, but not so overwhelming that they discourage us. One trick is to break down larger tasks into smaller, more manageable steps so that we can maintain progress and avoid feeling like the job is too big to handle. Now, the fourth approach is to focus on urgency. We can do this by using timers, avoiding to set deadlines that are too far in the future, and by attaching meaningful consequences to task completion. When we're able to create a sense of urgency, it can trigger the release of dopamine, which can help us push through procrastination and actually get things done. And lastly, we can focus on passion. We can do this by pursuing activities that naturally inspire us and that are in alignment with our values. The more deeply we're connected with something, the more likely we are to remain motivated and be able to persevere through challenges. Now, of course, this system is not a magic wand, but I have found that using this method can really help us to understand how we tick, especially once we determine which of these 5 pillars is the strongest motivator for us personally. The key really is tapping into our intrinsic motivation and focusing on the aspects of tasks and goals that make us excited and stimulated. When we finally understand what our brain needs to be motivated, we can start to make actionable plans to help bring our goals and dreams into reality. So as always, I truly hope you found today's video to be helpful and validating. If you did, please like it and share it with anyone else who may benefit from the same message. I want to thank you so much for watching today, and I hope the rest of your day is extraordinary.